And do Tea Party members, do they know science, or are they a bunch of dummies? And why is our government investigating that? Yes, the government forking over almost $400,000, your taxpayer money, to study the cognitive ability of Tea Party members. And the researcher found the results, quote, surprising. It turns out, and perhaps to the great dismay of Tea Party critics, Tea Party members have a better scientific comprehension than non-Tea Party members. Another way to say it, they're smarter. Well, the study just highlighted in Senator Tom Coburn's latest 2013 Wastebook, and wait to hear more about the shocking waste in his book. But first, Tea Party member and former Congressman Allen West joins us. Congressman, how are you tonight, sir?
How you doing, Greta? I feel a little bit smarter, that's for one thing.
Well, apparently the government must have thought that you're a dummy, because all this money was spent to study it, and lo and behold, it turns out you know more science than non-Tea Party.
Well, it's amazing that our federal government would spend almost, like you said, $400,000 to try to study the cognitive abilities of a certain segment of the electorate, in this case, constitutional conservatives. But I can tell you this. I have the cognitive ability to understand that Obamacare is going toward a death spiral, that it does not work, and it's not just the website. I have the cognitive ability to understand and be able to discern when the President of the United States is telling the truth or not telling the truth. And I have the cognitive ability to definitely not say anything such as we have to pass the bill in order to find out what is in it. So I think that perhaps that professor and that funding should have been pointed toward those people that are definitely failing the American taxpayers.
Well, this $400,000 that went to a Yale law professor for his story, apparently he was stunned. I guess he certainly had his thoughts beforehand, because he said he found the result puzzling and had predicted the cognitive scores would be negatively correlated with right-wing ideology. Although I think a lot of Tea Parties would say they're not necessarily right-wing ideology, but that they are fiscal conservatives.
Well, you're absolutely right. And I think that when you look at deductive reasoning and the ability to have a rational assessment of the issues and come up with solutions, you know, the people that support the Tea Party, constitutional conservatism, you know, they believe in the founding principles of our founding fathers. And I guarantee you, when you look at the writings of Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, James Mason, Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, those founding fathers were brilliant men. And look at the documents that they produced. So I would find it unconscionable that people on the left would believe that just because you believe in our founding documents, the ability to understand and comprehend the Federalist Papers, that for some odd reason you're going to be, you know, somewhat, as you just said, a dummy or not have the right type of cognitive abilities. I think it's quite to the contrary, and I think that you will find that most Tea Party members are very astute.
You know what I find, though, probably most shocking about it is the fact that it's taxpayer money to do this, and why taxpayers need this explanation or this study. I mean, what was the point of it? If the researcher had assumed that, for lack of better words, the Tea Party people were dummies in science, if that had been his assumption, was he trying to get that information so he could go out and say, aha, they are stupid in science, these Tea Party people? Was that the point?
Well, absolutely. There was a nefarious intent there, without any doubt, to be able to come out. Because if this had been a different result, I can guarantee you that ABC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, PBS, all of those alphabet soups of the mainstream media would be talking about this report. Instead, you don't hear a thing about it. But let me bring out one incredible point. What I find absolutely offensive is that we have a federal government, once again, with all of these billions of dollars of wasted money, and then they're going to turn to military retirees such as myself that gave, you know, 2 decades of my life, and others, and then also those who have been medically retired. Think about this film coming out, Lone Survivor, and Marcus Luttrell, who was medically retired U.S. Navy SEAL, and they're going to tell us that they're going to take $6 billion away from us. Instead, look at all this wasteful spending. That's offensive. And really, it's a curse upon every single person up there in Washington, D.C., in the House and Senate that voted to support that budget.
It's the amount of waste, and you're going to hear a lot more about it. And studying the Tea Party's cognitive ability, of course, isn't the only thing that taxpayers have been buying lately. Congressman, thank you very much. And we bet not one of those items was on your holiday shopping list either, and you bought all of it. Little green man cartoons for NASA, red wine for the Chinese, they need red wine, a boneyard filled with abandoned planes, and that is just the tip of the iceberg. Senator Tom Coburn has made it his personal mission to get to the bottom of government waste. He joins us. Nice to see you, sir.
Greta, good to see you. Thanks
it is
for having me.
Horrifying. I mean, this book that you've written about all the government waste, it's stunning.
Well, you know, I'm not amazed or shocked anymore. I know the stupid, incompetent things we do. What is even worse than that book is that the members of Congress aren't fixing it. I mean, you think about it. You know, people can pick at that book and say, well, that's just your philosophy. And you don't think that's an appropriate way to spend money. And I'd get them to actually ask them to think about it a different way. At a time when we're borrowing $750 billion a year, and we have almost an $18 trillion debt, is now the time, even if you think I'm wrong, is now the time to spend money on those kinds of things. The NSF granting a study to check the, I mean, why is that something that we need to do? Our problem is we're spending money that we don't have on things that we don't need. We don't need that study.
Well, in the introductory first part of the book, you talk about how the president and his cabinet issued dire warnings about a cataclysmic impacts of sequestration that taxpayers, you know, with the whole what was going to happen to us. Yet we just spend money like crazy on these projects.
Well, this book is half of the sequester. There's over $31 billion in this book, and I've got another 200 or 300 projects that I could put into a list that could easily give us $100 billion a year. So the question that taxpayers ought to be asking is, why isn't Congress fixing that?
You know, but I don't understand, why isn't the media, you ask why Congress doesn't fix it. I don't know why the media doesn't jump on it. You say 400,000 to determine whether or not the Tea Party people are dummies in science or not, and the media will say, well, that's just 400,000. That's nothing, it's 400,000.
Well, the way you get rid of $1 trillion deficits, $1 billion at a time. And so in that book that you have on your desk is $30 billion worth of stupidity and incompetence.
Give me some examples.
Well, great. Uncle Sam looking for romance on the web. Another wonderful study.
Romance? Wait, we're paying for romance on the web?
Yeah. We're studying it.
Studying it, why?
So the National Endowment of Humanities has spent $914,000 to look at romance on the web and romance throughout all romance novels throughout the world, not just here. And that's a study that they put forward. Now, maybe somebody somewhere ought to research that.
Private money can do that. Sure.
But should we spend $1 million doing that at a time when we're going belly up as a country?
What else we have?
The Fort Hood killer. Because the administration said that was workplace violence rather than a terrorist attack, we paid him over $250,000 all the time he was waiting trial.
Meanwhile, we're cutting the money for the military.
Yeah, we pay the guy that killed, what, I think 12 people and injured some 20 or 30 others. And we continued to pay him until he was convicted. He's not collecting money now. But had it been declared a terrorist incident, he wouldn't have gotten any money. But yet we made a decision to do that. So somebody, somewhere, made a stupid decision. You know, when you're yelling Allah Akbar as you kill American soldiers and civilians, that's not a workplace violence episode. That is a terrorist attack. So we had that. We spent $415,000 supporting wineries so they could sell red wine to Red China. So that's a private business. We're spending the money to support them to go over there and market their wares. And all of these are highly profitable vineyards that sell out their product every year.
Is it possible to find out whose fingerprints are on these? I mean, who's putting these in?
Well, that one came from the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
But who asked for it?
Well, you can't find that. As a matter of fact, one of the problems with the Obama administration, when we write a letter, we hardly ever get an answer.
So we have no idea even who's asking for this.
I can't tell you the individual, which comes to the other side of it. Where's the accountability? In other words, if you make a decision that wastes money, should you not be held accountable as a federal employee?
I think so, but anyway, Senator, it's a great book, and once again, you know, I might tip my hat to.
They can get it on the website, coburn.senate.gov.
Great, thank you, sir. I'll put it on Greta Wire as well.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.